Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission press forum. As you know, we try to have these press forums right after the meeting, just so that you can have an update on what the commission is doing. As always with these press forums, you can feel free, I repeat, you can feel free to record. Joining with me on this press forum are Commissioners Rebecca Zatella, our outgoing chair, and our two new commissioners that are assuming leadership role, Commissioner MC Rothhorn, the new chairperson that was elected today, as well as our new vice chairperson, Dustin Witches, is with us as well. And last but not least, our historical first executive director, none other than Sue Ann Hammersmith. And Sue, we'll let you go ahead and kick off the remarks about your departure. Thank you so much for your service and all that you have done. And you've received an abundance of accolades from the commission this morning. So kudos to you.
Thank you, Edward. I'm a little bit sad to be leaving. This has been an experience of a lifetime, and I truly appreciate the opportunity to work with this commission in this historic initiative. And I am sad to leave, but I have other things to attend to, and I will be retiring at the end of this month. And I'm happy to report that the commission did agree to have Edward Woods continue as the executive director upon my departure and the communications and outreach director. So he will definitely have his plate full, but I know he is up to the task. And he will serve the commission well, as he always has. So again, I appreciate the opportunity, and it's been a wonderful experience for me. And but I will be leaving at the end of this month, which is the end of my original contract.
Thank you so much, Sue. Rebecca, would you like to echo anything? Because you've worked with Sue quite closely over the last year as chair, but also as vice chair as well.
Yes, I just appreciate everything that Executive Director Hammersmith has done for us as a commission, and for me personally as a chair. She has been so instrumental in helping organize meetings, helping our work get done, helping me take over that role from vice chair to chair. And I just tremendously appreciate her hard work. I know the hours have been long and the demands have been many, and I am so grateful that she was our executive director and so appreciate her work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our new incoming chair is MC Rothhorn, and we'll let him make some comments as well as share. And then after our new chairperson, MC Rothhorn, we will hear from our vice chairperson, Dustin Witches. Commissioner Rothhorn.
I just want to add that Sue added a lot of kindness, especially for myself when it was needed. This has been sometimes grueling. And so just a lot of appreciate the leadership and the overall the kindness.
Talk to us about your incoming position as the new chair of the commission, please.
Right. So I'm a team. Just like when Rebecca and I were doing it, right? It's Dustin and I. So I mean, I appreciate that I'm the chair, and without Dustin, without a vice chair, it's going to be impossible. I learned a lot from Rebecca. I feel like I learned from Brittany as well as Steve too, like in those chair positions. So it just feels like it's okay, going from vice chair to chair. Again, it's because Dustin's going to be there that I know I'll be able to do it. I'm going to appreciate a lot of this. I need support. I am not an individual, right? I'm definitely a team player, and right, with Sue leaving, I'm appreciating your kindness too, Edward. Like, you're one of those people so yes, I'm the chair, but I am on a team, and just appreciate that we're getting smaller and smaller, and we're just going to do the best we can with what we got. So that's how I'm feeling.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Witches.
Well, MC, I'll be sure to keep you in your place. No, I want to say that I'm honored to have been elected vice chair by my fellow colleagues. The trust that they place in both MC and I is really quite nice, and Yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. I don't really quite know what I'm getting myself into, but we'll see as time moves on. And as far as Sue, I do want to thank you for your continued dedicated service that you provided us. MC said it perfectly when you said that you brought kindness. I'm going to add to that and say that you kept the light at the end of the tunnel lit for all of us, and making sure that our goals were completed on time. And I do appreciate you, and I will be sad to see you leave.
All right, you guys seen the agenda that we took place today, and we could open up the floor for questions if you have any questions. I do want to share with you that I will be releasing an email that came up in today's meeting from Aaron Wagner, and I will share that with all of you. So you will get that after the meeting. Once again, I will be releasing the email that was referenced today by Commissioner Aaron Wagner. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Sergio Martinez Beltran from Bridges, Michigan.
Thank you, Edward, and congratulations on your retirement, Director Hammersmith. I wish you the best and a lot of rest. With that said, I have a question for Commissioner, which is, when you were talking about the 7% increase, you said, don't tell me that I am not doing as much work as I used to, because I still am. And, can you explain what you meant by that? The reality is that the meetings are shorter than what we've seen in the past. So to the regular public, it might not seem like y'all are working as much as y'all were doing it 2 months ago when y'all were drafting the map. So what do you mean by, but you're still working as much as you are?
Okay, well, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody else, but I'm still constantly reviewing public comments that have been made, public comments that are coming in. For one example that I have is in regards to the federal lawsuit that we have. There was a preliminary injunction that was made, and I took it on myself to go in and create that map and provide it to everybody in our mapping software, so those things can be reviewed by all of us. I'm constantly going through that, constantly going through the maps that we made, and constantly going through the maps that have been presented as possibilities, and comparing and contrasting everything to make sure that the right maps have been chosen. But I'm still working. I'm actively doing this. This is my job for the foreseeable future, and I have no intention of stopping.
So you see this as your full-time job for the foreseeable future?
At this particular point in time, yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other follow-up, Sergio?
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Beth from Detroit News.
Thank you. Thanks for taking questions today. So a few follow-ups on Sergio's question. Reactions to the lawsuit or how things need to change in relation to the lawsuit, isn't that what you guys have litigation counsel for? Isn't it their job to defend the maps? And then, eventually if it gets sent back to you guys, you might have to relook at them. So that's kind of my question there. And then also, I know it was mentioned that the commission would be asking for a legal opinion about when, basically your tenure ends or your time in the commission ends. Have you guys asked for that legal opinion? Where are you at in that process at this point?
Sue?
I have sent an initial inquiry to Fink Bresic, our local counsel, in this regard. Again, they're involved in litigation at this time, and I know that takes precedence on their schedules, and we're not their only client. So I'm hoping that can come back either to the meeting on the 24th or the first meeting in April for the commission for further discussion.
Beth, any follow-up?
Yeah, I guess I didn't hear an answer to the question about litigation handling, like your litigation counsel who you're paying handling actually the litigation. And then one other follow-up, I know there was also talk at the last meeting about getting together something to bring to the legislature to ask for more money. If you guys are able to provide an update on that too, that'd be helpful.
Okay, I think Commissioner Witchers is going to answer your initial question that we missed, and then our executive director will ask answer your last question.
Yeah, so in regards to your initial question, you're correct. We have litigation counsel that's going to help us with litigation. However, the litigation counsel does not know how to use our software. So I took the liberty on myself to provide something that could be used as a commission with data that was provided to me eventually about this what was the preliminary injunction, put it together so that all of us could analyze what the preliminary injunction was, all the numbers in regards to compactness and everything else that we've ran through all of our maps that we've created and voted on and passed as a body. They don't know how to use our software. We do, and I'm probably, I like to think that I'm pretty proficient in it. And I took this on myself to provide this information in a format that we all know how to use, so that the commission as a whole can see the information the way that we have been working on our maps for the last 6 months. So yes, litigation counsel is important. Certain things I took on myself to give information to the rest of the commission as a whole, so they have a better understanding of what was presented in the case.
And then on the legislative appropriation, yes, we also have a letter in the draft stage that is ready to go to the appropriation chairs. And that also is at our local firm, Think Bresic, to review before that gets sent out with last year's budget, final budget, and the current year budget.
All right. WPBN News.
Hi, my name's Ireland. I'm with 7 and 4 News in Traverse City. I just had a few quick, like general questions. How many hours a week would you say that you work, and are you paid with taxpayer money? Just to confirm that. Yes.
Mr. Rawthorne, do you want to take that answer that?
I think Rebecca's got it.
Okay.
Oh, thanks for putting that on me. Yes, we are paid with taxpayer money. The rate that the commission was paid was set by the commission after the Constitution itself specifies that we get paid a minimum of 25% of the governor's salary. We did increase that to 35% by a vote of the commission. And then about 2 weeks ago, we raised that again another 7%. So we are paid by the taxpayers. In terms of the hour commitment, I think that really depends commissioner to commissioner. I think when you're the chair and the vice chair, you have a lot more work to do because you're interacting more with the press, and you're also dealing with those behind the scenes functions that allow the commission to operate. But I think there's probably a wide range of time commitments that people are engaged in. And so I think that's where you're seeing the division in the commission, because there frankly are some people who really aren't doing very much other than attending 2 meetings a month. And then there are other commissioners who are doing quite a bit. So I think that's where you're seeing in the discussion that we had today, a difference of opinion about who's doing what and how much work there actually is.
Yes, that makes sense. And I just had one more question.
So Commissioner Witches, I'm sorry, wants to follow up.
I just wanted to add to the, or for clarification, I suppose. So the salary 35% was voted on. The additional 7% is not making it so that it's 42% of the governor's salary. It's 7% of what we had added to it. So it's not, we're not adding thousands of dollars to our pockets.
And that was also because of the rate of inflation, which we find has even grown higher. We just saw a report from Guardian from last year to this year. So I think it's 7.9% Guardian had come out this morning. Okay, any additional follow-up?
Yeah, I just had one question. So earlier it was, 6 to 6. How does that work with a tie, with passing? If you could explain that to me, I guess, a little bit.
The motion fails if it's a tie.
Yep.
Okay. So the motion, so my understanding is the motion didn't pass this morning for a raise.
The motion to reconsider didn't pass this morning.
Okay. Thank you.
The motion to increase the salaries by 7% was approved 2 weeks ago. This was a motion to reconsider that decision, and that motion for reconsideration failed. So the 7% raise will be going into effect at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Colin?
Hey, so I guess this is a question for Director Hammersmith. I just want to say wish you the best in retirement as well. Echo what Sergio said. I'm curious. You mentioned going before the legislature. The letters you have a draft ready to go. The Constitution requires the legislature fund the defense of the maps, but last time we had the press conference, kind of legislative comms were saying, hope they know how to start a good GoFundMe. Is there a fail-safe in case they decide, well, we'll give you some money, but not all of the money that you feel you need to pay the law firms? What's the fail-safe there? Or how does that get worked out?
We are going according to the Constitution. So the Constitution requires us to report. The Constitution also requires the legislature to commit to funding to defend any litigation against the adopted maps. And so that's what we will be requesting, is for the legislature to follow through with their constitutional obligation to fund the litigation. And that really is the primary reason that we would go to the legislature. Last year, we had a balanced budget, although we did return $20.90 to the state treasury from our budget, but also because of the census timing, some of our expenses that would have normally happened in the last fiscal year got bumped into this fiscal year. For example, the second round of public hearings, and a good deal of the work in putting forth the maps. So that involved many meetings, and every meeting has a cost to it. There's travel for commissioners, there's travel for our mappers, et cetera. So some of the commission expenses did get pushed into this year. And the initial year also, due to the pandemic, was helped in the budgetary sense because there were no in-person meetings from September until May 11th of our last fiscal year. So Zoom meetings are much more cost efficient than meeting in person. So there are many reasons that our budget requires additional funding. However, we will also be providing for the legislature the report from the Princeton gerrymandering project that anticipated what the expenses might be. And we also have comparisons from the Arizona and the California redistricting commissions. So it will become very clear that we have been working on a shoestring. This commission had 3 full-time staff. None of the other independent commissions achieved their goals with 3 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff who started in June. So we were very lean our first year. And this current year budget is comparable, except for the litigation costs.
Yeah, I guess the follow-up with that would be, I mean, does the legislature have an option constitutionally? I didn't see anything detailing this too much in the amendment that would say, well, the law firms you want to hire are too expensive, go with this law firm instead. Or we'll pay for the law firms themselves, but we won't pay for all the other expenses. Like the 7% raise. I know you mentioned that was offset by Julianne Pastula's retirement, but does the legislature have any room here to say no, I guess is my question. And what happens if they do?
Well, that will be up to the legislature. So I will leave it at that. I mean, they have to abide by the Constitution, but if they want to negotiate with this commission about other expenses, certainly that could be a conversation.
So I would also add to that, Sue, there is language in the Constitution under section, I believe it's 5, that requires the state of Michigan to indemnify commissioners for costs incurred if the legislature does not appropriate sufficient funds. So I do think we have a fail-safe in there. Of course, we want to work collaboratively with the legislature to make sure that we have sufficient funds to defend the maps. And I wouldn't want to rely on a fail-safe. I hope that we can reach an agreement on amicable terms between the commission and the legislature.
And just, I guess, a follow-up for Edward, presuming this does last into your term as the new executive director, do you have any plans for this process?
When you say plans for what the process, what do you mean by that?
I mean, going forward, negotiating with the legislature, asking them for more funds to help with the legal fees, anything else that may come up if there's more revision.
I'm gonna echo what Sue Hammers has said. You know, we have a draft letter getting ready to go to the legislature, you know, requesting those funds. So whatever is not done, I will pick up and follow through at the will of the commission.
All right, thank you.
Lauren Gibbons, MLive.
Hey, thanks for having the call, and I'll reiterate the congratulations to Director Hammersmith. But Colin asked most of the questions that I had, but just to follow up, in the event that it gets to a point where the legislature is not providing money, or if there is a dispute over whether things get funded, is it possible for this to go to litigation with the commission sue to get more money? Is that, I guess, what happens if there's not a way to amicably resolve this?
Well, I think it's kind of speculative, Lauren, with regards to that. And so we would obviously have to talk to our attorneys and get back to you. But I mean, at this time, we have a process, we're going to follow it. And then if something happens, we'll deal with it when we can. But it's a lot of speculation that we're just not prepared to deal with until we see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure who the iPhone is, but you're up.
It's Clara Hendrickson with the Detroit Free Press. So I have a question for Commissioner Satella. So you said that it was your idea to put forward the motion to reconsider on the agenda for today. And obviously that motion failed, but just wondering if you would have voted to reverse the pay raise that you previously supported, and if so, why you would have wanted to reverse that.
Yeah, I actually would have voted to reverse it. I don't really think we needed the pay raise. I was willing to accept it based on some of the requests from fellow commissioners, but hearing from the public and their opposition to it, I rethought that position and decided that I wanted to reverse my vote, which is why I asked for the motion. I also would say that I agree with some of my fellow commissioners that, excuse me, I would be okay with reducing our salaries back down to that 25% floor that's in the Constitution as well, because the workload has decreased significantly, and I think that would be appropriate. But that was also voted down as well. So the commission speaks with one voice, and that's what the commission has chosen to do.
Claire, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do have a follow-up. So given that statement, if you were in the shoes of lawmakers, on the receiving end of the commission's request for additional funds, how would you respond to the commission's decision to increase its pay by 7%? Is that something that if you were in their shoes, you would rubber stamp?
I think it's fair for the legislature to ask us questions as to why we're asking for additional funds. And I think the clear answer to that is the reason is because of litigation expenses. It has nothing to do with commissioner salaries. As has been mentioned previously, we've actually had a reduction in payroll, and we're about to have a second one with Executive Director Hammersmith leaving. So our budget over expenditures are not because of salaries, they're because of litigation expenses. And so I think that we can have that honest discussion with the legislature, and I'm sure they're all honorable and decent people and will be willing to sit down and have a discussion with us about it, and we will be able to resolve any concerns.
Thanks so much.
Commissioner Rothorn?
I'll just offer that it may be important to just see when the legislature increased their pay last, and when all legislative bodies, all governing bodies struggle with this. So I think it's important to sort of do the background and make sure that we're not the only, that the legislature hasn't done the same thing that we've done, so to speak, and increased the pay. But again, I could be wrong. I think it's just, it's something I'd like to point out, and maybe with the reporting that it might be useful information for the public.
All right, Colin?
Yeah, I'm curious, you mentioned earlier that a few people on the commission are doing more work than others, and that's how you have this kind of broad dispute between the commission. Is it at all possible to pay different commissioners different levels based on their workload?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure the commission could vote on that and decide on that. It's not something we've broached before, but as someone who served as both the chair and the vice chair, and actually have been a regular commissioner too, there is a very significant difference in workload. And I would support particularly the chair having a higher salary because of that workload. But that would be something the commission would have to discuss and debate and possibly approve if they were inclined to do so.
I believe Commissioner Rothman, I guess.
I just wanted to offer that I think it's important that we recognize we're all commissioners who have not sort of applied for this job, and we weren't selected because of particular skill sets that we have. We each come to this with our full background, and meaning we either have financial wealth and we can volunteer to do this, or we haven't had financial wealth with our family and so forth. And so we need to be paid to do this. And what I'm suggesting is that it's so important to honor that we're doing this. I think the Constitution sets us up so that we're removing a barrier for any citizen who is randomly selected to be in this position. And removing that barrier means that it's a giving sort of an equal playing field to each commissioner. And I think what Chair Zatella said is true, right? There is a different, as we've had chairs and vice chairs, like it's a lot more communication, a lot more time away, outside of the meetings, just trying to understand how are we going to set up and facilitate and frankly come together when we're in a meeting. So, but I think it's important that we recognize that there's just a huge wealth gap. We all know it, in Michigan especially. And I think we should try to recognize that and make it, remove as many barriers as possible for every single citizen who can be in this position. And so, yeah, keeping it equal playing field, having it the same, I would support that. And I would really like to see us, as you're reporting this, right, talk about what does it mean for everyday citizens to be compensated, right, in ways that professional politicians are not, right? We got feedback from our political scientist. She said, like, wow, I can't believe you're all doing this for that little, right? There's an incredible amount of work, and you're absolutely right. Everyone in the press and the public is absolutely right that it does seem like we're doing less work. I just want to say somehow, right, that this is also, yeah, we each have the rest of our lives and we don't, right? There's no healthcare included in this position. There's no time off benefits. And yes, there's less work and that perception is real, but try to create a story or help fill in some of the blanks for everyday citizens, because I really want people to feel encouraged, right? Everyday citizens to be here in the next round, and I know it's 8 years away, so it's not anytime soon, but the idea that we're, right, that the press has such an important role in keeping everyone who's potentially going to apply to this role and to be in the shoes that we're in, they will also, yeah, I'd like them to have a sense of, yeah, it's important work. It's not, yes, you're paid. Sometimes it feels like it's well paid. Sometimes it's not, depending on your background and healthcare and what your needs are, et cetera. Your personal needs, your family needs, your historical needs. So a lot of that is what I'm asking you to consider as you write your stories, and thank you.
So I just wanted to double check there. I had a little connectivity just from my side. Did you say that you would support pay scales for the commission, or did you want to keep that just one consistent rate?
It challenges me. So I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I do think there are, yeah, I'm not certain where I fall with that.
All right. Sergio?
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Witches, you have something?
I just wanted to add on that and give you my 2 cents as well in regards to sliding pay scales for commissioners, and I'd be against that. There's no additional powers really granted to vice chair, chair, so on and so forth. Yes, we may be able to do we may have to do a little bit more work on the administrative side of things, but we all have one equal voice at the end of the day at the table. So with that being said, me personally, the pay scales, no, I would be totally against it, because we all work as one body and we all have one voice at the table.
All right, Sergio.
Thank you. And just like 2 questions here. I'm really curious to hear from, Commissioner Rothman, you talk about like the role here of the press and making sure we fill in the gaps. But I'm also curious, do you think that those who supported the amendment envisioned this commission as it being a full-time job for commissioners? Or do you think they envision it as everyday people who had other jobs and were coming together here to do this and then get paid for that work. Because I think that what people are seeing out there is also that not only like the work has been done, the big part is that you had to approve maps. Those maps are approved. Now we're in the litigation process. So it's like, how do you justify that? And also, do you think that the supporters envisioned this position to be full-time?
I think,
Oh,
Dustin, do you want to go?
I was going to say for your first part of your questions in regard to envisioning if you could do this while having a second job, my answer to that is absolutely not. I had a full-time job before this happened, and I managed to keep it and juggle everything for the first 6 months before we went on our first listening tour. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that there is absolutely no way someone would have been able to have a full-time job and doing this at the same time. Absolutely not. To even suggest that, given that what you've been seen us going through, is that in itself is a joke to me. Like, you've seen how busy we've been. To suggest that we've been able to do this and have a full-time job is absolutely asinine.
Well, and we know that one commissioner did do it, Dustin, so.
That's what I was
right?
just
I was
gonna
gonna
say.
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just asking the questions because some commissioners are doing it.
Yeah.
And I mean, Brittany Callum did, and that was like the whole thing, right? She missed some of the
Right.
meetings because of that job. That's what she told people. So
I would-
Okay, but then
I
my
would also-
follow up to that would be like, well, okay, she had a second job, correct? But and people had to miss meetings. People that were always at the meetings, I would entertain the idea of stating that if you were able to come to every single meeting, do everything, and there's no way that you've been able to hold a second job and do so.
Yeah, I would add to that it is possible, and it depends on what stage you're at, because I've been back to work since November. Commissioner Kellum was full-time the entire time. Commissioner Orton has returned to work, and Commissioner Rothorn has returned to work, and we're all working full-time right now at our other jobs and still doing this. So I think regardless of what justifications might have been in place for salaries in September or August or October even, I think a lot of those justifications are fading away, because the reality is we are meeting twice a month. We had a 2-hour meeting today. We had, I think, a 3-hour meeting at the last meeting. So that's 6 hours a month that we're meeting, and we're getting paid thousands of dollars to do that. And, it concerns me. I don't think it's, even as an attorney, to be earning $1,000 an hour to go to 6 hours of meetings is extreme to me as an attorney. And so I think we could stomach to have lower salaries at this point, because we're just not doing as much work, even though we did a tremendous amount of work and much more than full time back in August, September, October, and November and December. So this is where the difference of opinion comes into play. And again, I made my best arguments to the commission, and they've chosen to keep the salaries the way they are and proceed with that cost of living adjustment. So
I would also want to acknowledge that a lot of the experiences of this commission, I hope a future commission doesn't have to do this during a pandemic, because we had a census delay. This commission was supposed to have census results in April. They got them in September. That really compacted the work, which made it very, very difficult for those who had a full-time job. So the weeks when the commission was meeting from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m, 5 days a week, it's really hard to hold down a full-time job unless you have a lot of flexibility in it. So therein lies a challenge, and I'm hoping in the future a commission will not be working during a pandemic and won't experience the same time compression that this commission experienced in working to get their job done.
All right, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out and listening to us in terms of what happened today. Well, once again, we'll continue with these forums every 2 weeks, right after the commission meeting, right about this time. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me. I do want to reference that in the chat. For those of you that had questions about the Constitution, I put a link to the chat so that you can have the Constitution available for fact checking or for future reference as it relates to the commission. Once again, thank you so much and have a great evening. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.